Romney versus Ryan, the divorce. Let's play hardball. Good evening. I'm Chris Matthews in Washington. Let me start with Mr. Romney's divorce. Why did he pick Paul Ryan for his running mate? Certainly not for better or worse. Mitt spends his days and nights acting as if he's out there all alone, that he never hooked up with Ryan in the first place. I get it. Romney doesn't want to get dragged down by his political mate's push for getting rid of Medicare. He acts like Ryan's got no hold on him. But it's not the way it works. Romney's slowly gotten the word that the voter out there thought the two had things worked out, that Romney and Ryan were in this thing together. Well, they're not. Romney's dying. He can't stand being tied to Ryan and all that budget-cutting baggage of his. For his part, Ryan is feeling the taint of having a running mate who's unwilling to stand with him, unwilling to be his kind of politician, a conviction politician. So, trouble in paradise. Mitt's dying to be single again. So is Ryan. We all know that politics makes strange bedfellows, but the word's out that this pair, Romney and Ryan, are sleeping in separate rooms. I'm joined by MSNBC political analyst Howard Fineman and Joy-Ann Reid, managing editor of thegrio.com. First, more new polling data that shows Mitt Romney trailing. Let's check the Hardball scoreboard. According to a new Fox News poll, President Obama leads Romney by 5 points among likely voters nationwide, 48-43. Catch that, the Fox poll, highly significant there. Let's go right now to Howard on this question. It looks to me like this divorce papers are pretty much out there right now. All that you hear now is Romney doesn't really want to be stuck in that little basement where they cut Medicare.
Well, Mitt Romney was on the campaign trail today saying, I have a little secret. I'm going to win Pennsylvania.
Oh.
Okay. He's not going to win Pennsylvania.
It's the oldest state in the union.
Yeah. He's not going to win Pennsylvania with Paul Ryan's profile on Medicare or budget cutting or anything else. So if Mitt Romney is serious about making a play in Pennsylvania, that just underscores how inconvenient Paul Ryan has become. Look, Mitt Romney did not pick Paul Ryan because of Paul Ryan's Medicare or budget programs. He picked Paul Ryan because of his youthfulness, because of the cultural appeal, because of what Paul Ryan himself calls the deer hunter Catholic that he is. Okay, that might sell in Pennsylvania, but the other stuff won't. And if we're going to be cutting Medicare at some point, which I think most voters understand, I think right now, looking at these alternatives, they would rather have a Democrat they know in a Democrat than a Republican from a party that never supported the program to begin with.
Let me go to Joy on that, Joy-Ann. You know, it seems to me that people who, once you get into your late 60s, early 70s, into your 80s, you have one primary care, and that's what you're always talking about with your friends. How's your health? How's it going? Your social life, in many ways, is going to see the doctor. You have to survive. You got to see your kids. You want to see your grandkids as much as you can. You don't walk away from health and say, I like the cut of the guy's jib, but I don't like his health care program. It's pretty hard to separate.
No, absolutely. And, you know, Chris, the most remarkable thing when you go back and you look at these state-by-state swing state polls in Florida or in Wisconsin or in Ohio or in Iowa, the remarkable thing and the only thing that has changed in terms of the demographics is that Barack Obama is now tied with Mitt Romney or beating Mitt Romney among voters over 60. That's the very group that is the most skeptical of Barack Obama. They've been the hardest group for him to win over, but he is now winning them over. And there's only one reason for that. It is Medicare. And, you know, as much as I totally understand what Howard Fineman was saying, there was no other reason to pick Paul Ryan other than his budget. Paul Ryan was not the governor of a state. He can't deliver his home state from what we're seeing in the polls.
Well, we know that
he
now,
was
though.
His ideology, right? You picked him because you wanted to tell the right that we're going to take your ideology and we're going to take it out to Main Street. And then he didn't want to do it. He's trying to hide
why did he decide? Let me, though, now that you've got into a little thought here about Howard's thinking, my question to you, and it's a tough one, didn't he know that if he bought Ryan, he was buying his deal? He was buying his cuts in Medicare, his substitution plan for a voucher system. Didn't he know that? How could he not know that? He's a deal maker.
Well, he immediately distanced himself. Mitt Romney immediately distanced himself from the $700 billion in cuts that were part of Paul Ryan's immediate plan. So they knew right away they had a problem. I think they picked him because in spite of that, I think that they picked him because he was young, because he was forceful, because, yes, he was ideological, but typical Mitt Romney, who for a business guy doesn't always examine the details. I mean, I don't think they thought through the implications.
I don't
think they thought they were going for the sizzle of the conservative without looking at the details.
But I want to get into this because just for a minute, this is the Mitt Romney. We all have problems in our thinking. Well, nobody's perfect, obviously. I think the problem with Mitt Romney is he wants all the advantages of a conviction politician. He wants to be seen as one, but he isn't one. He's a pragmatist. Let's go look. The starkest bit of evidence that Paul Ryan's position on Medicare is poisoning the Republican ticket came a week ago when Paul Ryan was booed at the AARP convention when he called for the repeal of Obamacare. Let's watch this.
The first step to a stronger Medicare is to repeal Obamacare because it represents the worst of both worlds. I had a feeling there would be mixed reaction, so let me get into it. It weakens Medicare for today's seniors and puts it at risk for the next generation.
Well, not too popular there. And now we've got the polls that put concrete numbers behind those boos. A new poll by the Washington Post and the Kaiser Family Foundation shows that Medicare trails only the economy as the top voting issue in the swing states of Florida, Ohio, and Virginia. And among voters who say Medicare is extremely important to their vote, Obama swamps Romney by, get this, 13 points. And when voters in those states were asked a similar question, whom they trust to deal with the Medicare program, Obama again trumps Romney in all the polls. In Ohio, Obama leads Romney on Medicare by 19. In Florida, 15. In Virginia, 13. Other polls have shown President Obama's advantage on Medicare has grown significantly since Ryan joined the ticket. So let's go back to this again, trying to figure this out. He bought into a guy who was known primarily for this voucher plan, getting rid of Medicare as we know it. You basically go to a doctor, and the bills are paid by Medicare. You can't beat a system like that, Joyanne, I don't think, on this planet Earth. Yeah, and have something paid for when you go to do it. I mean, there's nothing like it. And why would anybody want to change it?
Exactly.
Nobody would want to change it.
And you know, Chris, I think what's worse than that is they tried to be too cute, I think, with it, because they said, hey, we're not going to touch anybody over 55. Well, people over 55 understand that their children are future seniors. They don't want to get rid of the program, period. It's not that they're going to be selfish and say, well, as long as you don't touch my Medicare, go ahead, turn it into a voucher. Seniors don't like the idea of changing the program, not just for themselves, but for their children and grandchildren. They want the program to stay as it is, as that poll shows.
Yeah, we're going to put you in a room with a lion, but we're going to keep him 15 feet away from you.
Exactly.
We're not going to let him get at you. Exactly.
I agree with Joy on that. Absolutely. That whole, don't worry, everybody over 55.
Well, wouldn't that send a message? We know this won't sell to you?
Yes.
Exactly.
Well, what it sends a message is that we know this is unpalatable, so we're going to keep you away from it. And I agree. It's a line that's been used before. It's a line that's been drawn before. But it turns out not to work politically. I want to get to something that really is wild. By the way, here it is. Again, we'll get to this first. In the very first interview Romney and Ryan gave after Ryan joined the ticket, Bob Schief, who's very good at this, pointed out that Ryan's budget plan, including his plan to voucherize, that's a great word, Medicare, could be trouble for Romney. Let's listen.
There's no question your campaign has been trying to make this election a referendum on Barack Obama. Now, some people are saying you are making it a referendum on Paul Ryan's budget plan.
Well, I have my budget plan, as you know, that I've put out, and that's the budget plan that we're going to run on.
And again, this Sunday, Romney had to distance himself from Ryan's positions and assert that he's the man at the top of the ticket. Let's listen.
The president's cutting $716 billion from current Medicare. I disagree with that. I'd put those dollars back into Medicare.
Mr. Ryan has proposed something similar, almost precisely the same number, 716.
Yeah, he was going to use that money to reduce the budget deficit. I'm putting it back into Medicare, and I'm the guy running for president.
Well, what a miserable time he has. Now, all he does is defend himself against Paul Ryan's budget, and he put the guy on the ticket.
Yeah, Chris, I remember when this happened, when he put Ryan on the ticket, a lot of Democrats said, okay, it's over. We've got it.
Yeah.
And I was skeptical about that when they said it. And I think a lot of us who like to hear intellectual debates about policy said, great, bring it on. Let's have a big debate about the philosophy of government. Well, down in Florida, they don't care about the philosophy of government.
All politics is local.
They want the program. They like the program. Don't mess with the program.
Let's go to something really big here, Joy, because I like this guy so much. This is Jim Webb, who's retiring as the senator from Virginia. He's a Democrat, but a different kind of Democrat. Many people, including me, believe he's eviscerated Romney with these words he spoke. Remember what Romney was saying? There's the takers and the makers out there, including among the takers, unfortunately for Mr. Romney, are those people who served us in uniform, may have been dismembered in some cases, have spent the rest of their lives dealing with the injuries and wounds they suffered for the country, and they don't consider themselves takers exactly. Let's listen to Jim Webb defend them.
Governor Romney and I are right about the same age. Young guys. Like millions in our generation, we came to adulthood facing the harsh realities of the Vietnam War. 2.7 million in our age group went to Vietnam. Those young Marines that I led so many years ago have grown older now. They've lived lives of courage, both in combat and after their return, where many of them were derided by their own peers for having served. That was a long time ago. They are not bitter. They know what they did. But in receiving veterans' benefits, they are not takers. They are givers in the ultimate sense of the word.
Joy, the whole thing, people should look it up on YouTube. It is the most powerful speech. I heard it today. It's riveting.
Absolutely. Chris, when I heard this last night, I thought to myself, this is devastating for Mitt Romney. I mean, these two gentlemen are of the same age. And, I mean, you understand, Chris, that the most seminal decision that had to be made by young men of the Vietnam era was whether to answer that call or whether to try to find a way to get out of the draft. And for those who supported the war but still didn't serve, that reminder, I think, is devastating for Mitt Romney among veterans. And look, he didn't mention veterans, nor did he mention our current fighting men and women in Afghanistan in his acceptance speech in Tampa, which was a huge error that is doubly and triply amplified by the words that Jim Webb spoke. Devastating, I think, for Mitt Romney.
If I were the Democrats, I'd run Jim Webb every night from that election day.
Well, the Democrats and the Barack Obama administration from the beginning has been focusing on veterans. Michelle Obama's focused on
always
veterans.
With the families, yeah.
So this is a theme that runs through the administration. It's paying off now in many states, not just in the presidential race.
And then Romney did them the favor of not mentioning
the favor of not mentioning, and Senate races is going to be big all the way through. That's going to be a constituency surprisingly in favor of this president, which in the past has not been the case with Democratic presidents or Democratic
This nominees. Rings with that great movie by Oliver Stone about they cheer when you go off to battle. When you come back wounded, you're not really one of them anymore. It's terrible.
Well, it's been smart and humane of the Obamas to focus on it.
Thank you, Howard Farley. Great conversation. Howard and Joy, thank you very much.